In his painful budget on Tuesday, Dan Andrews slapped Victorian landlords with an additional tax slug. Even though experts have warned that such a tax would leave investors with no choice but to pass the expense onto their tenants, accelerating the rental crisis. Now, adding fuel to the fire, the Andrews government is now reportedly considering introducing rent caps across the state. Joining me now is the CEO of the Real Estate Institute of Victoria, Quentin Kilian. Quentin, thank you so much for your time. What do you make of Andrews' decision to increase taxes on property while simultaneously floating a rent cap?
Well, look, we have been very much opposed to this land tax increase. We are in the middle of a rent crisis at the moment, and the rent crisis is caused by a lack of supply in the marketplace. When you add additional burdens to rent providers, such as increased land taxes, you are going to put just give them another excuse, give them another reason to leave the market. We don't need that. We need more supply. We need more investors in the marketplace, which means we need less hurdles for them to face.
It's remarkable that the Victorian government doesn't seem to understand basic supply and demand. But policies that go to limiting the right of people to earn a return in the good times while still bearing all of the burden in the rough times are a real disincentive for people to invest. People are feeling the pain of high rents, but surely this is the opposite of what's needed to improve things.
Yeah, look, one of the things that we are continuing to point out is that when you look at the Victorian property market in the investor space, 70% of the Victorian investors own one single property. So they're mum and dad investors that have invested in one property for their future, for their retirement. And of that, 43% of those, according to the ATO, earn under $100,000 a year. So this is not the big end of town. This is simple mum and dad investors who have seen the purpose of investing into property for their future, to be slugged with additional taxes that now not only are there additional taxes, but the tax rate has been broadened because the tax threshold has come down from $300,000 to $50,000, which means that many investors who were never touched by land tax before are now being captured.
Yeah, and that point you make about particularly hitting mum and dad investors is real. I don't think governments always fully understand the way that the tangibility and understandability of real property means that people who might have less education, less of a capacity to understand complex financial instruments, are prepared to invest in property. And so in many ways, we're slugging that aspirational group of people that we most need to give the reasons to keep on going. There's got to be practical barriers in this policy too. I mean, how would the government prevent secret cash payments from tenants to landlords in lieu of a market rent?
Well, look, that's probably a rabbit hole that I don't want to go down and explore. I mean, one would hope that it doesn't come to that, but look, the bottom line for all of this, and it's part of the argument that we try and bring it back to all the time, is that this is about supply. This is about making sure that we have enough supply so that every Victorian has shelter, that Victorians have somewhere to live. And at the moment, that's the real problem, is that we don't have enough supply in the Victorian rental market, which is causing the other byproducts, which are things like higher rents. The last thing you want is more hurdles in front of investors. You want to be, instead of demonising them, we should be finding ways to create that supply and enticing people to become investors or to stay investors.
So very quickly, what should governments be doing to generate that supply, to make buying a home or renting a house more affordable?
Well, firstly, they should be taking away more taxes. They should be taking away the taxes. They should be not looking at ways to disincentivise, but ways to incentivise people to both come into the market and to stay in the market. The next thing they have to do, and they have to do soon, is sit down with the entire property experts, us with PCA, with pretty much everybody who's in that property sector, and let's have a talk about all the various solutions that we can have. Not a talk fest about outputs and so that we can look good, but let's find solutions and let's do it together.